I think what you saw with Biden was obviously a lot of propaganda and a lot of manipulation for whoever was really in power. I mean, and I'm certainly no expert in the auto pen, but it's alarming. And you've seen Trump say, like, we got to get to the bottom of this, which one would hope.
Yeah, put that graphic up while she's talking about
it. But the bigger thing is there's no universe where they did not know this man had prostate cancer. Again, you know who's wonderful in explaining this is Dr. Drew Pinsky. He's had prostate cancer.
Yep.
He breaks this down in detail. But I've interviewed so many different doctors over the course of my career, and there's just no universe.
But also
this does not happen. We felt a notch. What are you? There's a PSA score.
Right.
It's a Gleason 9. It's metastasized. They have known about this for years.
Standard panel.
Years.
He's Donald Trump's #1 enemy in Congress, Chicago Senator Dick Durbin. And now Dick Durbin has a new scheme, a government takeover of your credit card. Today, consumers have thousands of choices in credit cards, all with equal, strong security. But Durbin's plan is less competition and less security. And that means more risk for your credit and your identity. Tell Republicans in Congress, stop Dick Durbin's takeover of your credit card before it's too late.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Welcome back. Good Thursday to you, to the Ruthless Variety Program. My name is Josh Holmes, along with Comfortably Smug, Michael, Duncan, and John Ashbrook. What we thought we would do for you here is greatly improve the intellect and the aesthetic of the Ruthless Variety Program.
It's a high bar.
Yeah, and introduce to you Jillian Michaels. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me, guys.
You're just a breath of fresh air. We've known you for all of about 10 minutes. I can't get enough laughs out of you. I mean, this is fun.
Because tragedy plus time equals comedy. that is the story of my life. Seriously.
Well, you all probably recognize her. First of all, you've been making your rounds. You seem to be omnipresent in the universe of podcasts and everything else. I know you're working on a couple projects. We can talk about that. A lot of people know you from The Biggest Loser.
I know. It's good and bad, maybe, possibly.
Well, I loved it, but athleticism, aerobic activity, healthy lifestyles, things that sort of have become in vogue now in this day and age for the first time, and like were forced upon everybody in terms of a conversation for years before, but now seem to have a foothold with the MAHA movement.
You know, it has been said that MAHA is one of the most powerful political movements in the country right now. Yep. But what I find so strange is, when did health become political?
Yeah.
I want to be funny for you, but I just don't. I don't, unfortunately, see the humor in it. It's quite sad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people have asked me, like, in the Venn diagram of politics and health in my life, how did you end up being political? It's that intersection.
Yeah.
Of MAHA, which this should be utterly nonpartisan.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But now, I have friends in California that would inject fluoride into their eyeballs right now because Trump.
Because Trump.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah, I was arguing with an MIT engineer the other day over petroleum-based food dyes. And she's like, well, I did some research, and you would have to ingest a truckload of red number whatever to end up with a third nipple. And I'm thinking, first of all, there's beetroot as an alternative, which, surely you can concede is a better option. But second of all, it's the other 9,999 chemicals that are in your food, water, beauty products, home products. Like, it's the aggregate of all of this garbage. But why are you making a case for petroleum-based food dyes?
Yeah.
Because Trump.
Yep.
It's always the same conversation.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Can we talk a little bit about just sort of your life before we get started into all the various issues and what's brought you here and everything else? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in California.
So you did, just born and raised. So you've watched the
complete transformation at the hands of... It's so sad, actually. Again, like, also not funny. I want it to be funny. Not enough time has gone by. It's just the tragedy piece at the moment. So, unfortunately, I have seen, under the leadership of people like Gavin Newsom, the state's complete decline. And it's very sad and unfortunate because it is an exceptionally beautiful state. And the people really, I mean, with the exclusion of Hollywood that everybody loves to excoriate, and for good reason, most of the people are lovely. They're just normal human beings trying to do their thing, live their life. But the politics are a tragedy, and you give the most and you get the least across the board.
Yeah, totally. So, look, somewhere you're growing up, I imagine you were always athletic.
No.
What?
No, I was the
Interesting.
fat kid, which I was. Yeah, I was the fat kid, and I think that's why the approach that people have seen me take historically in the role of personal trainer, and unfortunately I haven't donned the tights in that capacity for a little while, but you know, when I was in that role very actively, it gives you a different perspective on it. So surely, you know, you have an empathy because you understand why people utilize food when they're overweight or obese. But you can't apply sympathy. That's a false message of lethargy. That's virtue signaling.
Yep.
Literally.
100%.
That's the synonym for it. And you're fundamentally disempowering somebody when you're sympathetic. It's like, oh, you sad, sorry, pathetic, weak little thing. Don't worry if you're 300 pounds and you have chronic kidney disease and type 2 diabetes. This is the best you can do.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So it
Low
In
expectations.
politics, we call that the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yep.
nice.
That's what it is,
Ooh.
right?
Yeah,
and
no,
that,
it
that
is.
applies to health.
100%.
It's like just a pat on the head, and this is the best you can do.
Yeah, 100%. That's
When it never
exactly
is.
it. No, and I'm living proof. Hence, to bring it back to being the overweight kid.
Yeah, but at some point, I mean, listen, in addition to everything you're doing in a personal training capacity and athletically and everything else, you have personality. You have an ability to sort of get on screen and magnetize an audience, and this just becomes a thing for you. I imagine that it's an interesting transition because it's not like there's a road that one travels to become sort of a celebrity in this area.
I definitely had a learning curve for sure. You learn to become more familiar with these things, though. You guys, I'm sure, can all understand this. You become a better public speaker. You become better on camera.
Just takes doing it.
You have media training. People teach you, and then you watch yourself, and you're appalled.
Always.
Oh my gosh!
Right.
Like, did I say 57 times in that interview? It's like, oh my God, it's, you go flog yourself, get back into an interview, and you say it 52 times, and then hopefully you improve in your interviews and you improve in your communication skills. And then at the end of the day, there are people that are just going to hate you regardless, which is irrelevant.
Well, that's just being public.
Exactly.
Right?
That is absolutely part of being forward-facing. People are going to project whatever they want onto you, for better or for worse. There are people that thought I was like fat Jesus, and then there are people that thought I was like the ultimate fat shamer. Neither of which happened to be true. So, like the truth is somewhere in the middle. But when you're thrust into that position, it is an opportunity you don't want to throw away. You've got this huge megaphone, and the show had aired in like 80-something countries, and I was able to publish books in all those countries and put out DVDs in those countries at the time, and apps and so on and so forth. So you gotta kind of rise to the occasion over time. And luckily, it's been a long time, so people forget how bad I was at that job.
You're selling yourself short. I mean, you became such a great motivator for so many people who felt like there was no way out. And I wonder if you have one specific story that sticks in your mind from those days that you could share with the audience.
I do. I have to concede that probably 66% of the people I worked with did not keep it off. But 34, I don't know why I came up with these numbers for you, but it's right. It's like a third kept it off. And that's actually hugely successful because when you look at the numbers
Save lives, honestly.
95% of the people that lose it put it back on. And it has to do with why they're eating. At the end of the day, as much as people don't like to hear calories in, calories out, that's the simple science. But it doesn't solve the problem as to why they're consuming too many calories.
Psychological.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is a bit dark, but there was a contestant that was 500 pounds. She was the biggest woman we'd ever had on the show and had a tragic background. Her mother was a drug addict and a prostitute, and she was put into foster care, and the stories were horrific. And on day one, you know, in an environment like Biggest Loser, it's a life or death intervention on a ticking clock because they get voted off, which is extremely unfortunate. You know, the gamification of weight loss made great TV, but was arguably not the best way to help people over time. I wasn't a producer on the show. It had its good points. It had its bad points, obviously. Right. The fact that they would go home, for me, as a trainer, was not awesome, but it made compelling television. So it's like day one, and I'm trying to get this woman, her name is Cheri, to climb on this thing called Jacob's ladder, where you're on your hands and your feet and you're climbing for 15 seconds. And she's like, won't do it, and she's crying, this and that. And I just remember grabbing this woman and throwing her practically through the wall with like all my might. And I was like, so help me God, if you don't get on this fucking ladder, I'm going to break every bone in your body. I swear to God, I will kill you myself. I'm so... and what people
It's
don't
like a
understand,
football coach.
is that I was trying to circumvent this story of like, I'm worthless, I'm fat, I'm weak, I'm lazy, I can't, by just scaring the shit out of her.
Yeah.
So utilizing fear to kind of motivate her to do it. She gets through 15 seconds, and I was like, great, go do 10 more. And I showed up the next day, and she's like, I did 10 more last night. And the point is, and she ended up losing hundreds of pounds.
You broke the fear.
You utilize fear to give them, and you don't always need to use that tool, by the way. It's like using a sledgehammer on everything. You use it for very specific instances, but this one was necessary because she was going to go home the first week given the percentages. So what you're doing is you're utilizing it so that they have this accomplishment, and this accomplishment
builds esteem.
Bingo.
Yeah.
It redefines your self-worth and your belief and capabilities. So it opens this door of, if I thought I wasn't able to do this, and I am, what else is possible?
Right.
So you have to give people in that situation a moment like that. They need a rock bottom moment too. And the reason is because it's got to be harder to continue doing what they're doing than the work and the fear associated with the change. And it's also hard to understand, but people don't engage in self-destructive behaviors because they're weak, lazy, or stupid. That's simply not true. It's providing them with something very psychologically significant. So for example, with this woman, she'd been abused in ways, that we don't need to get into, but I'm sure you can imagine. And
Terrible.
she put on the weight to desexualize. So it's providing her with what in her mind unconsciously she sees as a defense structure. So taking that away from her is going to be terrifying. And that's, by the way, why people have such a hard time getting it off and such a hard time keeping it off. And you've got other factors, the food's addictive, blah, blah, blah. But there's a bigger picture to it, unquestionably.
It's just fascinating because you blend a whole bunch of things. It's not just like running and jumping.
Yeah, that's amazing because like typically you think of the job of the trainer as like, okay, get me to do the regimen, design the regimen. But so much of it seems it's also like a psychiatrist's job of like you have to find the reason why they're telling themselves they can't.
You would love it if a psychiatrist would do it, or a psychoanalyst, which would be another problem with the show. But my mother was a psychoanalyst, so I've also been in therapy, and I was the overweight kid, and I had this very draconian martial arts instructor.
So you had a background in that side.
100%. And my martial arts instructor was a savage and would do the same things to me, but it worked.
Yeah.
It was...
But you recognized it.
Bingo.
Because your mom.
Yeah.
You knew what was
the
happening.
combo deal, the combination of tough love and expectation, but also understanding what's going on for them psychologically, so you can try to help. But it's complex.
And everybody
Ideally,
works
you'd have a
differently.
professional do the work.
And everybody works differently.
100%.
What motivates them
Definitely.
is different. So listen, I mean, this is probably a tough transition, but one of the things that we love is you're like the Surgeon General in the war on fats for the last 15 years. We want to play a clip for you. Just get the reaction.
Okay.
Can we do clip one, please?
That's her!
That's the story?
Come on.
That's the girl. Sorry, I'm screaming. That's her.
Are you ready to work?
Amazing.
That was the
Are you
moment.
ready to work? If you quit on me again,
That's her.
you
Yes.
go home, and no one's gonna chase you. No one. I hear you scream.
Look at that.
All right, this is different, but that was her. That was the moment.
Seconds, go. Don't stop.
That
Go.
is so
10,
cool.
Isn't that weird
Yeah.
that you picked that?
Don't. 5 seconds. Head on the treadmill. What am I here for?
I love it.
I love it. I just love it for so many reasons. We all watch this show for a lot of different reasons, but you just kicking somebody's ass was like half of it for me. It was like, watch Jillian. She's just like dismantle.
I love when you could see in their eyes the turn, like when they
Yeah.
finally believed that they could do it.
Right.
And I think a lot of that credit goes to you.
I would say it's teamwork. You have to be unafraid of what people think of you because nobody. Listen, in a normal universe where she wouldn't go home in a week, that's unnecessary behavior. You can get her there over time, but when she will go home in 7 days and arguably end up dead in the next decade, you have to be willing to push them that hard. And of course, nobody has the understanding of why I'm doing what I'm doing. So they're like, I should just mean to fat people.
Which
I mean, that's part of it.
I don't know.
I
you
imagine
saw-
there's an audience who's like, I just want to watch someone shot at fat people.
Sure.
I'll never watch another show.
You guys, you saw the name on the show right there. It's listen, I can't tell you that it was all altruistic from my viewing perspective. But just an incredible thing. But look, you're now part of this larger movement. I want to talk a little bit about MAHA,
Yeah.
all
Yes.
of those things. I want to get your reaction to the whole Biden, the media, a cover-up. I want to get to all of that right after this.
Every year, America's freight railroads invest $23 billion of their own capital, not taxpayer money, to maintain the world's most productive freight network. That massive scale is key. It enables railroads to move goods with unmatched efficiency, driving down costs for American businesses and consumers. From energy and agriculture to retail and automotive, freight rail serves every corner of the real economy, and it's essential to America's reindustrialization. Put simply, manufacturing depends on rail. Freight rail is America's engine, built on private investment, driving the nation forward. Learn more at aar.org.
America is built on hard work and powered by American energy. Chevron has spent $44 billion with local businesses across all 50 states since 2022, fueling infrastructure and communities, all while strengthening local economies. Last year, Chevron increased U.S. production nearly 20%, powering communities and businesses. From the heartlands to the coasts, we're helping to fuel America's energy advantage, building a brighter future right here at home. Visit chevron.com/America to discover more.
All right. So, listen, we're back with Jillian Michaels. First of all, you are an absolute delight.
Thank you. Likewise.
Love having you here. Just sort of light up and have a different perspective on a whole bunch of things. I mean, you're like grizzled political types. You've come at this thing not from a political perspective. I don't imagine your family was particularly political.
No, not at all.
And you probably didn't engage at any point in your life in politics. And yet, you find yourself after a successful career and everything that you've done, you're now sort of driven into it, probably by no sense of your own interest in doing it so much as it is just kind of like important at this stage.
Well, you definitely get dragged into it because health has become a political football.
Yeah.
And the issues they're broad. So it's everything from ending chronic disease, but it's also gender affirming care for minors.
Yeah, right.
When you really have a modicum of understanding with regard to what happens when you interrupt puberty for children,
Yeah.
you come at this from a completely different perspective.
Totally.
You're giving children off-label cancer drugs during puberty, and we know for a fact how it's going to impact their brain development, let alone their bones, and it's.
Well,
you're
and your
sterilizing
mom. And your
them.
mom. I mean, you look at it through the eyes of your own children.
It is absolutely barbarous and disgusting, and it is something that I think we will look back on.
Like lobotomies.
That's what Rogan said,
Yeah.
actually. You're exactly correct. And
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with being trans. That's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
If an adult grows up and they understand, like, okay, I'll lose sexual function, I'll become infertile, their brain is already developed, their bones are already developed, and they have the ability to comprehend the choices they're making. Like, listen, I'm a libertarian, to be dead honest with you. Like, I don't care what you do as an adult.
Yeah.
If it's
Do with
consenting,
it what you will.
Bingo. But children and their parents don't fully understand what this means. And so
Well, it's terrifying just being a parent, right? I mean, just day in and day
and
out.
they tell you your kid will kill themselves if you don't allow this transition.
And you want to do everything for your kid.
Which,
And they exploit that, I think.
Exactly.
I think there's a medical industrial complex around all this
Just
stuff
gonna say that to you.
with this transgender
Billion-dollar
stuff.
business.
It's insane.
Yep.
And that's the thing. There was a study which was conducted. The government actually had this done during the Biden administration, and they saw that the myth that's been pushed that these children will commit suicide if they're not allowed to transition, and then they found that groups that were allowed to transition actually had increased.
And they tried to
suicide rates.
suppress that
That's
research.
the thing is they didn't allow that out because they're
Right.
like, well, this could allow the public to come to the wrong conclusion, which is like
What a scandal.
Insane.
unbelievable.
Yeah, and that was the largest peer-reviewed study on the subject of mental health outcomes of people who transitioned, and they suppressed it. And that is the insidious part of our healthcare system.
Yes. Yep.
It has to do with the fact that the healthcare system is captured, as we know. I mean, the American Academy, or the AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, is essentially a subsidiary for Big Pharma. And then when you look, who's brilliant at discussing this is a gentleman named Chris Moritz. And he understands the details of this inside and out at the industry piece of it. But for example, the Human Rights Campaign started something called an HEI score. I think it's called like the Health Equity Index score.
Jesus, I mean, it sounds horrible.
And they apply it to every major medical institution, like Johns Hopkins and the Mayo Clinic and so on and so forth, with regard to how well they provide this gender affirming
Well, this is
care.
the shakedown racket that we've talked
Here you
about.
go.
It is, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's more important than blood pressure.
You get a bad score, and it's going to affect grants and all kinds of money that would come into the medical facility. And when you go to the page, like their HEI page on the Human Rights Campaign's website, and it's like proudly sponsored by Pfizer. Come on.
What's so
Like, it's
funny?
crazy.
Well, what's so interesting about it? I mean, look, we've followed this, the whole DEI thing as it relates to healthcare and everything else. But ultimately, what it becomes is a shakedown racket where you get a bad score, right? Regardless of the patients that you're treating or what but it's a bad score. And there are kind of only two ways to get out of it. You up your score by doing more things, or for a couple $100,000, we can go away for the next year.
Yep.
And then we'll come back to you next year.
It's like the mafia.
With another show.
exactly
It's
right.
a nice house of shame if something happened to it.
It's exactly right.
And that has been happening at an increased level in the healthcare space, which you would think would be like the one sacrosanct area.
Unfortunately, not at all. I mean, and you're seeing it with Kennedy and everything he's
Yep.
going through with MAHA.
Yeah.
I truly just sit there bewildered at the people that push back on things that you would imagine we could all easily get behind.
Yeah.
That's I want to ask specifically for you because for me, if I were in your position, it seems incredibly terrifying. Because one thing that the media and the left writ large has gotten extremely good at is maligning character and making people, without even knowing any specifics or having any reason why, of being like, that's a bad person, that's a kook, that's a dangerous person.
Yeah.
Because for so long, in my mind,
It's crazy.
up until I'd say maybe like 2 years ago, people would say RFK, and I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I'm told this guy's a kook. He's crazy. He's got a bunch of Looney Tunes ideas. I saw this YouTube video he made where you're talking about petroleum-based food diets. He was like, these aren't allowed in Europe.
Nope.
Like, these are being used to, like, pave roads.
Yeah.
And also they're being put in children's candy to make it red.
Yes.
It doesn't seem like a good idea. And I was like, this is why they've gone after, because there's so much interest, whether it's corporations that make the candy or to malign people. But the thing is, it's so, like, generalized, non-specific that they can, like, affect just a person's label. Like, he's just crazy.
When you push people, and I just had this conversation with Bill Maher, and he's like, I like him. He's got some crazy ideas. And I was like, oh, like what?
Yeah.
And Bill's like, well, it's crazy ideas.
Yeah.
Like what? Well, he's against all vaccines. I'm like, well, he hasn't said that. And he hasn't taken your vaccines. So, like what? And the reality is that when you hear him talk about vaccine safety, improved safety testing, transparency with adverse events related to vaccines, because vaccine injuries do happen. There's a reason that the drug companies wanted blanket immunity for vaccines in 1986. What doesn't check out for you there? And when you really start to look at things like measles, and you listen to him talk, first of all, back in, I think, the 70s, if you look, like, everybody got measles.
Mm-hmm. There's a great Brady Bunch episode where they all got it.
Everybody gets me, and the percentage of people that had fatalities is like next to the level of the flu. I'm not suggesting you don't get your measles vaccine. I'm simply saying we've painted this out like it's the bubonic plague, and it's not. And arguably there are therapeutics for it now. But listen, I would get my measles vaccine. However, and they're like, it's robustly tested. What he goes on to explain is that they've taken 3 different vaccines, because it's measles, mumps, rubella, that haven't been tested when put together for safety. And he argues that the evidence shows some interaction with these 3 vaccines together that increases the incident of vaccine injury. He's not saying take the vaccine away. He's simply saying, let's study this combo deal. Because maybe this is a problem.
You know, and I think one of the things that I find most fascinating about RFK Jr. is that he represents, at least to me, this sort of human nature of a compendium of life experience of getting to the point that he's at, right? I mean, you can look at the last 15 years, and as he said shit that, like, I find horrifyingly out of touch, of course. But who amongst us has not? But you look at the genuine approach that he takes now, and his genuine view that we just have to become healthier. And why don't we ask questions that we're not asking? And I find that just refreshing. That component. Like, I don't need to agree with him on anything. I'm not a scientist. I don't know shit about measles, mumps, and rubella.
But to your point, Holmes, is what we're doing working?
That's exactly it.
Right.
It's not working.
Not at all. We're sicker than ever.
Right.
And I would say that he takes the approach of unsafe until proven safe, whereas currently the precedent was safe until proven unsafe, but we're not going to let you do the testing. So like, I'll give you another example that you might think is crazy. There's a chemical in the water called atrazine, and I believe it has to do with farmland runoff. I could be wrong about that, so fact check me. Nevertheless, this chemical is in the water, and it's literally causing frogs to have sex changes. So he said, like, I wonder if this is why so many kids are trans. Now, everyone's like, what a loon, what a kook, what a crazy person. But what you should be asking is, wait, what the fuck is in the water? Hold on.
The larger question remains.
I want to say it was Harvard who put out the study last year confirming this. Like, I was stunned because for so long people were being made fun of.
Yeah,
for
this is
stuff.
the Alex Jones thing.
Yeah.
They're turning the frickin' frogs gay.
The water thing. So I'm extremely fortunate. My wife is 100% on board with this movement. Like, the change that's happened in
My
our
wife
fridge
too. Right.
and my personal health. Like, I've lost like 100 pounds over the past 18 months. Yeah,
And he did it without you screaming at him. Can you believe that?
But it would have helped.
Can you scream at him, though?
Yeah.
Because I think that would be helpful.
I can't, though. We already lost it. Does he have more to lose?
Oh, I don't know.
100%.
Let's scream at him regardless.
No, but like,
You piece of shit! If you don't lose those love handles that remain, I swear to God, I'll cut them off with a buzzsaw. But you sicken me!
but that's the thing is, like, for so long we have been told just go along and get along.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, it's actually normal that the microplastics in the water supply, in the food supply, in containers are going up. That, like, you now have kids with more microplastics than have been detected in adults 30 years ago. So it's just normal. Go along with all of this stuff.
But again, even if there's reasonable explanations for these things, which, you know, I think that remains to be true, like, these are not questions that are irresponsible to ask.
Yes.
Not at all.
Right?
And if
I
you
think
can
that's the whole
mitigate
point.
it, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
I mean, they're finding plastic in our brain, in men's testicles. A 30-year-old man today has the testosterone level that a 50-year-old man had 30 years ago. Like, it's not just an obesity epidemic. It's everything. It's infertility is on the rise.
I want to assure
Yeah,
you,
Jillian, I'm very high tea. I'm
on
very
this
high
panel,
tea.
that we have, there is no problem there.
All right, good. Thank
There is
God.
no problem there.
I'm glad that you have narrowly escaped this. But I'm just, everyone's in
Nothing-
good hands. I don't need to do some screaming, but
Nothing
just
like
to make
being
you aware
emasculated.
that for the rest of the male population,
Yeah.
it's a concern. So, but no, I'm glad,
No,
glad
I mean,
we're
I
good
think
here.
It's look, these are important stories, but I think it intersects with this larger political conversation that we're having over the last week about Joe Biden, his health, and where it intersects is sort of a state control of a media function in this country and the information that's disseminated to people. And we've seen so much of what we just talked about on the health side. This is safe. This is not safe. According to who, we don't ask those questions, whatever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you put it in a political context and you're dealing with the president of the United States who, like, honestly, their base case here was that every single American should suspend what they know about aging, about cognitive decline, about they don't have parents and grandparents, they don't have aunts and uncles, they haven't seen this before. We're going to tell them exactly what it is that they're
fine.
viewing on screen, which is
Tip-top.
like the height
I know.
of just arrogance, and yet they got away with that. And then you see the cancer diagnosis and all of that. I just want to. What's your reaction to this?
Well, I was outraged for quite some time about his cognitive decline because it was obvious. And I had, again, to bring up Bill and I had this conversation in January of 2024. And he's like, no, I think he can make these decisions. And I was like, are you kidding? And then you don't have to be an expert. And we've now rewatched this clip of Jake Tapper having the nerve to attack Laura Trump. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you a doctor now? What a prick.
Yeah.
How in the name of God? I cannot wrap my head around the fact, if I could just sidebar for a moment, this guy
Is the one that's
all of the credibility that we afforded this guy, is it now not wiped completely away? He is the problem. You are propaganda. This is what you are why no one trusts the legacy
But
media.
Jillian, there's a book to sell.
And now you're going to profiteer off of it, which is like piece of crap squared. You lied to everybody. And
Did
now,
you see, by the way, what Megan did to him?
Oh, I
the
love
other-
her so much.
Yeah, she's
I
the best.
love her.
Absolute
She's the best.
I've said quite publicly that I fear ever getting on her bad side.
Yeah.
But I just think she's fantastic.
So, when I was watching
hopefully-
it, I was like, I will never fuck up and go on her show to talk about it because she doesn't let you get away with it.
No way. No, she's magnificent, but
Yeah.
she is. I think they forged her in fire. She's exceptional. She's a constitutional attorney.
Yeah.
Like, forget it. You get in a fight with her, you will lose. I have watched her dismantle everyone from Bill Maher, who I love, to Dan Abrams, and now Jake Tapper, and it's like you just want popcorn. You just watch her, and you're like, oh my God, here she goes.
Her
Oh
thing,
my God, buckle up.
Her thing on Bill Maher when she was talking about transgendered issues was
She's
fantastic.
fantastic. She is
Fantastic.
She's wonderful.
I mean, if you put Jillian and Megan shoulder to shoulder, I think you could
That would be an awesome show.
clear an army.
I mean, I would love to be put in her category. I don't quite measure up there, but
You can do the yelling.
I'll yell.
You can do the yelling.
Yeah, and I'll just
the
let her do the
physical
legal work,
intimidation.
and I'll just scream to get him to sign the contract. But she did. I mean, so I went off piece there, but I think what you saw with Biden was obviously a lot of propaganda and a lot of manipulation for whoever was really in power. I mean, and I'm certainly no expert in the auto pen, but it's alarming. And you've seen Trump say, like, we got to get to the bottom of this, which one would
Yeah,
hope.
put that graphic up while she's talking
You
about it.
know, but the bigger thing is there's no universe where they did not know this man had prostate cancer. Again, you know who's wonderful in explaining this is Dr. Drew Pinsky. He
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
had prostate
right.
cancer.
Yep.
He breaks this down in detail. But I've interviewed so many different doctors over the course of my career, and there's just no universe.
But also every
This does
man-
not happen. Oh, we felt a nodule. What are you? There's a PSA score.
Right.
It's a Gleason 9. It's metastasized. They have known about this for
Standard,
years.
standard panel.
Doesn't
years.
But this comes back to what I was just talking about. It requires you to suspend everything you know.
Yeah, completely.
In like your human experience. I mean,
Yeah.
any man who's ever turned 40, you know what the process is. You get the PSA test is just as common as putting the thing around your arm and getting
Yeah.
your blood pressure.
I
It
was
just
I was
happens.
sweating getting the finger up my bum. But apparently that's not
It's
we
not-
don't it's
it's
not necessary.
not
It's just
really
the
okay.
blood
It's
test.
unnecessary.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
unnecessary. Which, more to the point, what do you mean you felt a nodule?
Yeah,
like
right.
that. What is this, like 1989? Or is it just a good time for everybody? Like it's not. Like what?
That wasn't the doctor's appointment.
No. Who felt the nodule? Because,
He stumbled into Hunter's room. I'm sorry.
Oh, dear.
Was that over the line?
Oh, my.
It might have been over the line.
He said it. I did not laugh.
TMZ, if you're listening, it was not Jillian.
No.
She did not say that. But, I mean, look, I think that the larger point remains in terms of where the media is on all of this stuff. And it requires a skeptical eye. Does everyone have all the answers? Like, that's not what RFK is talking about. It's not what Trump's talking, not what you're talking about. It's about, here's the things that we do know.
Yeah.
This is the healthy piece that we know prolongs life, makes you stronger, makes you smarter, makes you better. Let's focus on that piece of it and not, disconnect our questions and answers about all the treatments for the things that go wrong.
It's not profitable if you do it that way.
Yeah, that's what's sad.
That's
sad.
the bottom line, is that it's a gazillion. I mean, gender affirming care is a microcosm of the financial windfall that sick people beget. Not that gender affirming care is a sick person, but the point is that there is, as put so eloquently by Callie Means, there's nothing more profitable than a sick child.
Yeah, certain general nominee.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I want to play one clip and get your reaction to it. Can we play clip 2? This is the New York Times. They have a podcast called The Daily.
Ah, yes, I know of this.
Which does a whole bunch of things, but I just want to hear how they talk about this whole thing as it pertains to Biden. Can we play that, please?
Which is the word cover up. What do we make of that word? Does it feel like the right word? If it's not the right word, then what is the right word for what essentially was going on here?
I mean, look, if this was a cover-up, it was an extremely bad one, because a majority of voters in America were saying in poll after poll, this guy is unfit to lead the country for another term. So it was not a very successful cover-up, if it was a cover-up. I do think what was successful is an ability to sort of bully their way through the party and convince the entire Democratic Party that they were better off with a sitting president, and basically dissuading any other powerful Democrat from jumping in to challenge Biden by saying, look, you won't be able to raise the money. You're not going to be able to mount a campaign. It's just going to make everyone in the party dislike you. On that front, they were very, very successful. Was that a cover-up? I'm really not that sure, because voters certainly told us that they knew what was going on here, and they were not comfortable with it.
We may never know.
So let me frame this in terms of a question for you, which is, it's not a cover-up because the bullshit that we were telling people they didn't buy.
Right.
Essentially.
Right. But this is the same New York Times that just informed us COVID came from a lab, right?
Yeah.
It's the same place?
Yeah.
Oh.
But that's racist, Jillian. It's
You're not
very
allowed to say
racist. It's very racist to say that.
The part that kills me, though, is when they come out as though they've had this massive revelation that they're going to impart to the public.
Yeah, it's like they've
Right.
only talked to themselves for the last 4 years.
Guys, this came from lab.
It's like Tom Cotton told us that in like a month in.
March of 2020, like Rogan was already covering it. Like, really? I mean, same. It's the same with Jake Tapper, original sin.
Do you feel like they pulled people like you out into politics?
That's a great
Oh, without
question.
question.
Here's
Without question,
yeah.
yes.
Here's the thing: is we've all worked in politics for 20 years,
Yeah.
and at no point in our politics did people like you get involved to this level.
I know.
You know, and I feel like in the Trump era, especially, in these last few years, people like you.
Yeah,
Joe
nothing we
Rogan.
could have done would have ever gotten you involved. Like, it's what
Elon
they
Musk.
did.
People being pulled into politics because they felt like it was a calling now because of everything that they saw. Do you feel that way?
They definitely force you into it. So I'll give you an example. I was asked in 2019 in an interview whether or not I celebrated if Lizzo was obese. And I was like, well, I celebrate Lizzo. I think she's a brilliant artist, incredibly talented. It's none of my business if she's overweight or not overweight. No, but do you celebrate? It's like back against the wall. And I was like, I'm not shying away from this. Screw you. No, I don't celebrate it because it would suck if she got diabetes.
Yeah.
If you truly think she's a national treasure, wouldn't that be bad? Wouldn't you want her around for years and years? And congrats to Lizzo, by the way, who seems significantly healthier than in 2019. But the point is, I think it was like, okay, put her on the stockade. Let's have our public flogging. She's a fat shamer. Let's cancel her now. And I was forced to have these conversations.
Right.
And then it just begot itself. It was one after another of anything from gender affirming care to food dye to fluoride in the water to COVID. When you make health a political football and you refuse to say that the emperor is well dressed, you're now having political conversations.
That's the most fascinating thing, and to me, that's the best way to understand what has happened to the left when they think maybe we need to start more podcasts or whatever. They created their system of power that they've had over the past 10 years is to shame people into saying, look how handsome the emperor's clothes are. Don't they look good? Don't they look good? And their entire party has to be like, yes, I agree, this looks good. On the craziest things, like gender affirming care, allowing illegal immigration, like every issue you could not disagree with, to now they're just in a silo of 10 of them left, having to convince each other, so we all still believe this, right? And the rest of the public isn't buying it anymore. And they're like, maybe we need podcasts.
Yeah, we need to reach out.
You had podcasts, so it's been famously said. You had Joe Rogan.
Yep. Yeah. Right.
I mean, he was for Bernie. Like, I don't think you get more liberal than Bernie. So, like, wow, that's a big shift, isn't it?
They walked away from it.
Like, you had all of these people. They were all on your team. Tulsi was a DNC chair.
Yeah.
A rising star. Like, you have no one to look at but yourselves for this mess that you've created. And the right has been very intelligent. They've embraced the middle. They've embraced the disenfranchised lefties, very much so. And I've had numerous conversations with very conservative Christian people on the right, and they've gotten themselves, the majority, not all, to a place of a bit live and let live, like with gay marriage or adopting kids when you're gay. The majority. Again, I say not all. We all know where Matt Walsh stands, but at least he'll have a conversation with you about it. But Sage Steele, Russell Brand, Benny Johnson, I mean...
Well, because so many of us are generational, right? Where it's like, we just lived in a world where we just thought, I don't know, everybody should be sort of equal. Everybody should have a shot at things. And that's what I say. It's so generational in terms of what today's Republican Party is. Like the DEI and everything else. Like it taught us that, like, oh, there's institutional racism that we like grew up trying to just absolutely extinguish.
Exactly.
I mean, I grew up with like Kirby Puckett and Bill Cosby. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden I'm told that there is this institutional racism where I can't respect black people. It is a wild timeline.
Corolla said this. He's like, I'll tell you this much. If you keep this up, and I'm going to butcher the way he said it, which is unfortunate, but he's like, if you keep this up, you're going to create a problem with a group of young white boys that now are.
They have.
Yeah, because when you tell them they're the problem and you're constantly singling them out, they will develop this kind of inherent, I don't want to say racism because it's not quite how he put it, but he's like, you're going to beget this problem by treating these boys in this way. 100%. And so, my hope is that...
I mean, imagine having a conversation in the middle of like the Me Too movement with a 16-year-old boy that you're like going to college visits with, and you're trying to have the conversation of like, look, you don't have any options here. Like, you got to keep it straight and narrow.
Yep.
I mean, there is nothing that you can do. All of the natural tendencies of a 16-year-old, men or women, you can't do because you're not afforded the benefit of the doubt on any of this. And like, I think there's a generation. I mean, you saw a lot of that come to fruition in this last election, where for the first time you saw a younger generation of men essentially be like, no, I'm going to be politically active this time around.
My 13-year-old watches Benny Johnson, Sean Ryan, Joe Rogan.
You got to get him in the Ruthless Variety Progrum.
I mean,
we had a lot of fun with it.
It's wild. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And he'll send me clips all the time. The one that really infuriated him is when Kamala said that we didn't have troops deployed. And then Sean Ryan, I think, aired the clip of the troops going, well, where the fuck are we? And he sent me, and he's like, can you believe this asshole? And I was like, honey, it was
like you're a little opposition researcher.
And my mom's like, you should not let him call the female nominee for president of the United States an asshole. I'm like, She's kind of an asshole, though, Mom. It was an asshole thing to do. You know, it was sort of an asshole thing to do. I'm like, don't call her an asshole, you know, in front of Grandma, but she's an asshole for that. Yeah, it's like, you know, they're paying attention.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for the better because he asks me. My daughter does too, of course, and she isn't actually leaning more left. She's leaning more right.
Yeah, which is
bizarre.
A crazy thing. Right?
You know, it's like, okay,
California
got a
young
black
woman.
kid with 4 moms who's leaning right.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they ask me questions constantly. Okay, is ICE going to be going into kindergartens? I'm like, no, hold on. You know, like
That's where you want the next generation.
They ask me
Asking
all the
questions.
time, and half the time I'm like, let me Google that shit for you. You know. But at least they're asking.
Yeah.
They're not just forming opinions based on tribalism and, you know, CNN.
Yeah,
Thank
it's a
God.
healthy upbringing. Listen, I didn't plan to do this, but I need to
Please.
know.
Okay.
We got 3 quick questions that we do
Okay.
for the first time somebody comes on the show. They sort of arranged. The first one, I'd be fascinated, given your background, if you could plan your last meal on Earth.
Oh, Taco Bell. Great answer. I've thought about it so much.
There's a follow-up on this.
Okay.
There is a follow-up
Yeah, no,
on
I've
it. If
thought
you
it
say
through.
Taco Bell, there is
Okay.
a follow-up, and it's something that Josh came up with, but something we all agree with, that the order that you made to Taco Bell in the 90s
I
is
know it.
probably the same order that
Two
you
bean
would
and
make
cheese
if you went-
burritos with no onions and extra cheese, a taco supreme, and a Diet Coke.
But it's like
you know,
it's your 1995 order,
it's like
right?
burned into
Yeah,
my
yeah.
cerebellum. I know exactly. Yeah, no.
I was like double decker nacho cheese. They're like, we haven't made that in 15 years. I'm like, can you do it? They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, we can do it.
Yes! Oh, God!
I mean,
I
they're
pray for
artists.
the
They're like,
apocalypse sometimes.
they're like,
Just because of that.
We've had the same 10 ingredients for 50 years. Everything's a combination of it.
Yeah,
So we
right.
can make anything we've ever had.
I love it. All right, second question. With the benefit of hindsight, now that you've had this incredibly successful public career, you find yourself not only motivating people from all political stripes to be healthier, but also entering the political fray in a little bit. If you could just take yourself back in time, like 20, 25 years, and you could do it all over again and pick a path, and it doesn't have to be realistic, but what would you just tell that person you should do?
You know, I think about this often, and I think, oh gosh, you know, I wish I'd gone to medical school. I literally could never have done the science stuff. I can't get through it.
It's the blood, right?
Ted
and
Cruz
it's
told us
the blood.
he'd be a basketball player, so like
It
anything
is-
is possible.
Right.
I mean, well, if he told himself that, it does not, in fact, mean it would come true. I just think the power to truly save someone's life. I personally am fortunate enough to work with a lot of amazing doctors. I've had amazing doctors treat me and help me out immensely. And I recently have talked about this a few times. I caught whooping cough, which is like
Yikes.
straight out of like Love in the Time of Cholera and all. It's
Yeah,
just-
right?
It was crazy. And I was
Where
so
were you hanging out with that?
Yeah, on
on
the Oregon
plane
Trail.
to Jackson Hole.
Oregon Trail.
Yeah,
She
these
bought a couple.
friggin' like
bought a couple
blue-wearing
oxes.
billionaires almost killed me. Like, and this is a vaccine, by the way, that I would simply say explore. Holy mother of God! You know, look over it a little bit. You know, give it some consideration. It's like 100 days of death's door. And it took literally like 3 doctors to put me back together. And I called my one doctor Sunday morning, and I was like, okay, I need to go to the hospital. Forget it. It's like 6 a.m. and I called Dr. Susan Baker, giving her a little shout out here, and I was like, Doc, I need to go to the hospital. And she flew into action, and I swear to you, like, she had me at least propped up by the end of the night and hit me with the horns, all of the conventional medicine stuff that I've avoided. I haven't taken antibiotics in like a decade. I had them injected into like every vein in my entire body. But I thought, like, God, that's like, what a crazy feeling. Like, you potentially, if we didn't have modern medicine and you didn't know how to do this job, I would for sure have died. I mean, if this was 50 years ago.
But that's a balance of your views too, right?
For sure. But everything is a cost-benefit analysis
Yeah.
with drugs, without question.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just thought, like, that must feel so amazing to save people's lives.
That's
Like,
a great
what's that
answer.
like?
Yeah.
That
It's
is
a great
answer.
answer. It's a really good answer. All right, so the last one's a little esoteric,
Okay.
but I'm fascinated to hear how you come down. We have found that most successful people find themselves into one of 2 categories:
Okay.
the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat. And let me just tell you that it is a 50-50 split. The way to look at it's not that anybody enjoys losing or doesn't enjoy winning. It's what motivates you to take the next step in your life. The ultimate agony of defeat person is Michael Jordan. Like he used to invent slights against him just to try to reach that next level and provide the fire that it took internally to perform. If you're going to stay with the sports thing, like my thing is always Phil Mickelson, who I don't know if you're a golf fan or not, but like he would look at a shot and be like, I mean, it's the dumbest shot in the world, but he's like, I don't know, I hit a 2-iron 285 yards into a green that's 5 feet wide before. Why don't I do it again? Like, I think I can do it.
Crazy.
Right? And like, everybody's like, that's the dumbest thing ever. But he's like, no, I think I can. That's the thrill of victory side, right? So, like, if you're balancing out that in your own life, where do you think you are in that compendium?
I have spent far too much time in the agony of defeat, so I wouldn't mind the thrill of victory. That sounds nice. That sounds lovely. I don't feel that I need more self-inflicted punishment. I had this conversation once with Maria Shriver, actually.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, like, and who was to me at the time, happens to be lovely and brilliant. And this is a woman that I could see was so exceptionally hard on herself. Mm-hmm. And there was like a 5-minute window where she allowed me to get involved in some of her, like, manipulating her food or her fitness. And I was like, Maria, like, why do you say these things? Or like, the kind of stuff you're talking about, like the Michael Jordan stuff. Mm-hmm. She said the same, like, it motivates me. And I thought, okay, but you're kind of like, you're running this car off of crude oil. What if we could run it off of solar energy, which would just be a pure love of the game? Mm-hmm. I would argue that's probably cleaner-based fuel.
Rather than being negative on yourself all the time.
I would make that case.
Okay.
But everybody works differently. So.
Yeah.
But what do you do?
I would love to say the thrill of victory, but it's just so fleeting. So
It's not. I know.
I
knew before you walked in here. Admit it. I knew before you walked in here. And by the way, you're sitting here with 3 agony guys. Like, oh yeah. It's not that we're like proud of it. It just is what it is.
Interesting. It does make you who you are.
It does make
without
you who
question. But I've often I look at Megyn Kelly, and I think this is a woman with a $60 million parachute.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to do this, but she does, and she takes it head on, and she's excellent at it. Like, if I had the $60 million parachute, would I still be sitting here?
Thrill of victory.
I mean, for you guys, yes, but and then after that, I'd probably be on a beach somewhere.
She's an agony gal, though.
She must be.
Yeah. She's
be.
like, God damn it, nobody's going to do this better than I am.
Yeah, she's not wrong.
Yeah. Listen, this has been so fun.
Thanks for having me,
Thank you for
guys.
stopping by.
I appreciate it.
I know you got big events. You go in the White House. You're doing all kinds of different stuff. I'm sure everybody will hear about it, but I can't thank you enough for stopping by and sharing a little bit about yourself.
I appreciate it. It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jillian.
Thank you.
Qualcomm is designing and developing the next generation of AI, connectivity, and low-power, high-performance computing right here in the U.S. We support President Trump's call for America's industrial revival, an agenda focused on restoring strength, scaling innovation, and securing our competitive edge. Our partnerships with Aramco Digital and Humane reflect that mission, putting U.S. technology to work, transforming global industries, and proving that American leadership still sets the standard. Qualcomm, engineering human progress.
Okay, folks, time to sound the alarm. Trump's big, beautiful tax cut is coming down to the wire in Congress, and my friends at Americans for Prosperity want your help to get it across the finish line. If the bill doesn't pass, the average American family is looking at a $1,500 tax hike. Americans for Prosperity says not going to happen. Right now, some members of Congress are getting very shaky with every special interest in D.C. pounding on their doors. But AFP thinks it's time for hardworking Americans to do some pounding of their own. So AFP and its grassroots army is already out there pushing back on crazy ideas like raising tax rates and supporting the congressmen who want to cut taxes. AFP is the only organization I know that can bring this kind of grassroots pressure to bear. If you want to join the fight to protect prosperity, visit protectprosperity.com to help Trump get his big, beautiful bill. That's protectprosperity.com.
What a terrific interview from Jillian Michaels. I mean, just love her.
Absolute blast.
Oh, kind of person you could spend the entire afternoon just talking about all kinds of stuff.
You know, it's one of the favorite interviews I have instantly. One of my favorite interviews we've ever done here on the Ruthless Variety Program.
It's really, it's great. But it begs the question, for our question of the day, Listen, like and subscribe on the YouTube. And wherever you get your podcast, put in the comments the question, your answer to, how do you think we can make America healthy again? That's why she's here. That's what she was talking about, the basis of most of our conversation. Imagine all of you have thoughts on this. And it's like around the globe, but particularly a new conversation in the United States about questioning all the things we've been told about various things, the food pyramid, for example.
Yeah.
You know, and
you need 90 servings of carbs. We've been told that for 20 years. Turns out, not a great idea.
Not a great idea. But, like, you know, you take a look at all of that, and you take a look at your current life and the debate that's happening. How do you think we can make America healthy again? So, you know, throw it in there. And listen, we got to get to your answers from last week, which, by the way, was a banger of a program.
Great episode.
Last Thursday. But our question was, do you think that Congress should investigate the Biden cover-up? I kind of have a strong opinion about this, and it's not necessarily a part of what we were talking about with press and media and everything else, so much as it is the question that President Trump raised.
Yep, great point.
Which is, who is running this joint?
Who controls the auto pen when the president's brain's not there?
Right?
I mean, honestly, good question.
And I mean, they raised it in several different occasions, whether this guy had any knowledge at all. Isn't that worthy of an investigation?
In the auto pen question, I think is relevant here because you wonder whether he was capable of signing his own name, or if they asked him to sign something, he would have just simply marked it with an X.
Shoeless Joe style. Yeah. Well, listen, we've got your comments, and to do that, we always start with a voice.
Okay, first one comes from Greekarella00. Greekarella writes, insiders were swearing he's a sprightly yoga guru while he wobbles like a weeble on a whiskey bender.
Oh, man.
Congress will probably uncover staff for staging spontaneous walks to prove he's not one fall away from a life alert ad.
Oh, Jesus.
Our audience is the best.
They're ready to go.
They really are the
I've
best.
fallen and I can't get out. Isn't that the life world?
Yeah,
That's
it.
It is. Greekarella continues. Congress diving in. Just another clown car pileup with zero stakes.
Oh.
They'll unearth some gems, maybe an email chain titled Operation Keep Joe Upright. But consequences? Pfft. Congressional investigators hold wrongdoers accountable about as often as a broken clock tells time. It'll be all noise and no bite. Congress has a lower approval rating than a porta potty at a chili cook-off.
Jeez.
Yet they'll grandstand like they're saving democracy. A cold dose of reality from Greekarella.
Geekarella.
And I actually don't disagree with any of that, but I will say, look, Democrats put Bannon in jail.
That's the thing to me. That's
you know
the
what
thing
I mean?
to me.
Like, from a consequence standpoint, there could be if people want to do it. The question is whether they want to investigate or not, and I understand why there's some skepticism. Comment 2, Dunks.
This is from Charlotte McKell. Charlotte writes, I say yes to an investigation. However, can Congress do it in a timely manner? I doubt it. But I think the lack of trust Americans have in the government and press is so high, we wouldn't believe any outcome. I want to tell you guys how much I love this show. You keep me educated and entertained.
That's so
Oh,
nice.
it's very
Thank you.
kind,
Yep.
Charlotte.
We love you, Charlotte McCall.
Yeah, we absolutely do, and that is our aim here on the Ruthless Variety Program. Smug, what do we have 3?
Comment 3 comes from Cheryl. Question of the day, absolutely yes. Congress should investigate who was making executive decisions during the Biden administration. Whoever it was should be held accountable. Only the POTUS has executive privilege for decisions and actions while in office. So the unelected bureaucrats who made such a mess and perhaps broke laws should be investigated and brought to justice. Funny how Democrats are so obsessed about, quote, saving our democracy, but they're okay with the elected government being overthrown by handlers and grifters.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes.
Dead on.
That's the point, Cheryl. You've got it. The whole reason why we wanted an investigation, that is exactly right. When we come back, fellas, we're going to play a game. It's our signature program game, King of the Hill, as we always do on Thursdays. We got a lot of excitement right after this.
Hardworking Americans know when it's time to roll up our sleeves and get the job done. Now is the time to unleash our nation's energy to create jobs, secure our future, and make life better, more affordable, and full of opportunity for all Americans. That's the power of America's oil and natural gas. Learn more at lightsonenergy.org. Paid for by the American Petroleum Institute.
You did all the right things. You worked hard, you worked your way up, and you invested your money in a 401k or other retirement plan. Your future is all set, right? Wrong. The retirement system as we know it is currently under attack from misguided policymakers in D.C. The Trump tax cuts are set to expire this year. Renewing them will be a big fight in Congress. Right now, the tax code protects 401ks, IRAs, and other plans that help you save. Some people want to change that. Your representatives in Congress must protect the tax advantages that more than 100 million Americans rely on to save for retirement. You deserve policies that build on the current retirement system to secure your financial future, not jeopardize it. If Americans know one thing, it's resilience. To stay resilient, we need immediate action from our leaders. Head to helpusretire.org to take action and reach out to your representatives in Congress today. Help Us Retire is sponsored by the Investment Company Institute, representing asset managers serving individual investors.
Okay, as we always do on Thursday, we play King of the Hill, our signature game here on the program. Who are our challengers, and who is our champion?
I'm the challenger.
Okay.
And I'm bringing in George Conway.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, new flavor. I think that game demands new blood.
It does.
And so I'm bringing it.
Yeah, I like to hear. I mean, that is an exceptional choice. And our champion, of course, is Cheri.
That's right. I'm representing the champion, Cheri Jacobus. For our new listeners, King of the Hill, we use basically never Trumpers whose brains are broken. Typically goes 3 rounds. Best of 3 wins. Whoever has the wildest take. Our judge decides who wins each round.
Yeah, and I'm judge and jury. You are the bailiff. I would instruct the bailiff to try to put together what I would call a tight court.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Yeah, I believe in this court. And I think we should go ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for King of the Hill. In the red corner, fighting out of a Democrat's dream, overweight and of counsel, George Conway. And now, in the blue corner, fighting from her own Twitter account and current champion of the world, Commie Cheri Jacobus.
It's going to take me a second.
It's incredible.
It's gonna take me a
We're all
second.
witnesses to greatness.
Hold on. Is this the first time we've ever played Conway on this
I think
show?
that might be.
No, I don't think it is, but he gave it so much extra effort.
Yeah.
Overweight
nickname.
and of counsel?
That was like the Jordan.
Holy
that was like the
shit.
Jordan flu game. Holy shit, dude!
Outstanding.
Not
Oh
easy
my
to hold
God.
it together. I knew you'd like it.
Oh
That's why I
my
did
God,
it.
it's so good. Okay,
Only-
well, I'll
only for my friends.
instruct the champion to proceed.
Could I get Exhibit 2, please? Exhibit 2 from Cheri Jacobus. This is just incredible. Jake Tapper is doubling down on the smear campaign. Biden was not tested for prostate cancer since 2014. Last Monday, they found a nodule. This is sickening. Jake launched his career by selling a magazine a piece on his one date with Monica Lewinsky. He is tabloid trash. So this is amazing because first off, yes, she's trying to run cover for Joe Biden being like, oh, you know, a surprise prostate cancer. There's no way the president of the United States with the greatest health care available on earth could ever know that he has prostate cancer. But then she dredges up Jake Tapper's history. Folks may not know this story. He did come to prominence off of writing an article about here's how my date with Monica Lewinsky went, which is wild.
Right before she was apparently engaged. It was right before, right?
Or
The Clinton?
during?
It
We
could have
don't
been
know.
during. Which, Clinton can drop the whole how's my D taste.
I mean, like, my God. See, that's what I'm talking about. Cheri brings this up.
Your Honor.
I'm sorry, but I kind of had to do it. I mean, that's what. Listen,
That's
you're
what Cheri
listening to
was
this. That's what you're thinking. That's what you're thinking.
Well, let me provide.
Is it not?
Yeah.
You act like I'm the bad guy. That's what everybody
No.
was
You're not the bad
thinking.
guy.
Okay.
Spaghetti. Wow.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That
No,
is what
it's
you're
great.
thinking.
It's
like
great.
if it was after,
No.
Who knows?
I don't.
As Smug would say, what more can be said?
Okay. All right.
Spaghetti, can I get exhibit number 11, please? This is a side-by-side of a picture of Adolf Hitler.
No.
And then a picture of Donald Trump at the USGA.
No.
Or USDA, excuse me. And George Conway says, deeply creepy. Indeed. 1932. Say hello to 2025.
See, I don't. In my view, anytime you do the Hitler-Trump comparison, what needs to happen in order to compete with that is so deranged and so insane that, like.
I mean, it's kind of a warmed over take, though. Like,
No,
everyone's like, Trump.
no, no, no.
Hitler.
He's
I mean, they've been
using-
doing like Mitt Romney, Hitler.
I
George W.
understand your
Bush.
point, counsel. I understand what you're talking about, and I know that there are comparisons that have deeply been explored on that front. But he's using new photographic evidence to say basically that this is the equivalent. And for that reason, it's no question for me. It's round one. Let's go, Duncan. Okay.
Let's go.
Sound decision making, Your Honor.
Fantastic. Okay, so what do I play here now? Okay. Spaghetti. Can I get exhibit number 14? So this is a quote tweet of Donald Trump. And I can't exactly describe exactly what Donald Trump is saying in this tweet, but he's talking about basically Kamala Harris's terrible performance and Joe Biden and how, he couldn't do the job. And the quote tweet is, and everything that we've seen, right, in these last few weeks about how Joe Biden had dementia and couldn't possibly do the job. George Conway is out there saying, a loyal fighter here. The last Japanese soldier on the last island. It's still hard for me to believe that after so many years of deranged posts like this, we've still never had a serious national conversation about this man's mental health.
The backdrop is
in
amazing.
the backdrop of this whole thing, where
The backdrop's amazing.
where Joe Biden, this is the end of it,
The backdrop is what makes it.
and he's just like a loyal soldier is being like,
No, it's Trump.
you know what? I think the national conversation we have to have isn't Original Sin, this book that's coming out, and how Joe Biden couldn't do the job. The national conversation we have,
We may have had a
Donald Trump.
puppet president for 4 years who had terminal cancer, but what about Trump?
So here's what I'm going to do: is I'm going to fight fire with fire.
Okay.
If you want to take like that, can I get exhibit 1, please? Cheri won't beat around the bush with this one. Exhibit 1 from Cheri. Notice the complete lack of interest in what Melania knows about her husband's dementia, drug use, and crimes.
All right.
CNN has jumped the shark.
I've seen enough. I don't even need to explore it. That round 2 goes to Smug.
Wow. So we're going to round 3.
Yeah, round 3.
Round 3, I really need to win it with this, so I'm going to just fire off a nuke. Exhibit 8. Cheri not caring about the Secret Service. A+ tweet posting stage 8647.
Well, so somebody tweeted out what was Jim Comey's tweet that he has since disavowed.
Yes.
Of 8647.
Threatening the president. She's like,
which everyone knew was a reference to trying to get rid of. It's restaurant nomenclature. It's also military nomenclature. 86, get rid of. It's kill in military. It's get off the bill in terms of restaurant culture. 47, somebody who suffered not one, but 2 assassination attempts. You can understand why people are outraged by that.
And Comey and everyone are trying to backpedal. She's like, don't backpedal.
She's like,
do it. It's good.
A+.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and play that on theme.
Ooh.
For an additional point from the judge and jury.
Oh, I like to be thoughtful about these things.
And I would say, Spaghetti, let's play exhibit number 15, please. There are 2 ways to interpret how Trump and his vile ilk have reacted to Comey's 8647 post. Is it just an example of how they ceaselessly lie to stoke controversy?
Oh, my God.
Or does it also... This is fucking crazy, dude. Or does it also reflect their vociferous penchant for psychological projection, how they believe or want to make everyone believe everyone thinks and acts as they do?
No.
Unbelievable.
No.
Unbelievable.
No. Look, here's where the judge and jury is on this. Her tweet is certifiably insane.
Insane.
In
It
that
is.
the person who actually gave rise to the 8647 thing was like, no, didn't mean that. I abhor violence. I'm sorry. I walk away. And she's like, no, A+. Which, I mean, that holds a lot of weight with this particular judge. But what he's saying...
He's doing like critical race theory for why it's okay to assassinate the president.
It provides an additional context, which is it's not their fault for the 8647. It's the MAGA supporters. Because what they are extrapolating upon, what we've all now, including Jim Comey, the purveyor of the original tweet, has indicated was offensive, is that they're only doing it because you made us
You
do
made
it.
us do it.
Right? And it's like, they're saying that because that's the way that they view the world, that they are the ones, that the MAGA people are the ones who see political retribution in terms of assassination. I don't know. You need about 6 months of history to figure out how that's all worked out. For that reason, Michael Duncan.
Let's go.
You're the winner.
Good match. Good tweet. Good match.
Overweight of council and now champion of the world.
Overweight of council and now champion. Maybe his first. Maybe
Yeah,
his first.
it's been a while since he's been played.
All right, we're going to do some variety.
Okay.
This one's pretty good, fellas. I think we got some hot takes on this. So there's a couple. This is according to the Daily Mail. And there's a couple that were forced.
My God.
They're forced to tear down their house after failing to produce horse semen.
Ooh.
Now, let me give you the backstory.
Okay.
A couple who've been ordered to demolish, again, this is according to the Daily Mail, a couple who've been ordered to demolish a £1 million property. So this is not a small...
That's
million
currency,
pound.
not weight.
Yeah, I don't know what a pound
This is
is. I live in
England,
America.
right?
Well, there's
This is-
It's a UK story, so.
but it's close to one.
It's the Harry Potter money.
Yeah, Harry Potter. It's like Monopoly, only different. They secretly built and moved into, have complained they have nowhere else to go. Jeremy Zelensky and his wife Elaine were given permission for a 2-story commercial building for a stallion semen collection center and laboratory.
Gives new meaning to the British pound.
My God. With a small first floor flat for staff. But while the outside of the property and 17 acres of land they bought in Great Abington, Cambridgeshire.
Come on.
It's always a shire.
Harry Potter theme
Shit
park
sounds
of a
like the
country.
Lord of the Rings.
Adhered to their planning application, they turned the interior into a well-appointed 3-bedroom home with a stunning feature windows overlooking the countryside. Something that I think that most people would be like, wow, what a nice little touch to our community. Not these folks. What they have come to find is that the council that is governing the zoning in these things, got wind of this subterfuge and issued an enforcement notice in 2023 to tear down the structure on an account of they weren't actually producing horse semen. It raises a bit of a Hobson's choice.
Just imagine you're in trouble with the government because you're not producing enough horse semen.
I will tell you, when Elizabeth died and turned the whole country over to her idiot son, it went to shit. Okay, I think that's as clear as day in this story. It's like these people are simply trying to hold on to their home, and King Charles is like, no, you have to masturbate that horse.
Well, let me provide an additional texture to this, which is...
a visit from King Charles. What's your demand, my king? One thing, and one thing only. See the horse in the barn?
Prima nocta on that horse.
Exactly,
You,
dude.
sir, must masturbate that horse.
Right? We haven't seen this since the Braveheart era.
So the couple believes that it was a jealous neighbor that informed the council, saying that they weren't jacking off enough horses. And so this couple is now in a real tumultuous situation where they actually have to bulldoze this thing. They noted there's very little evidence of stallion semen collection and analysis of the business permit that they asked for additionally to build the structure.
I would argue if they're collecting stallion semen in the house, that's when you bulldoze it. It's not. It's not because you're not doing enough of that in the home.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Where you live, you got your family there, all your stuff. If the government said they came to you and they were like, "Here's the deal. Unless we get horse semen, we bulldoze your house."
Ah.
Would you jack off a horse?
My God.
I could produce the volume necessary.
King of the castle.
You know what? So this to me raises questions when you bring this up. When you bring this up, Ashbrook, of like, what's King Charles's problem with this? Like his whole like issue with like the horse breeding or with the line of the horse or whatever.
Yeah, he's a big horse guy.
Well,
Doesn't
here's
count
the thing
unless you
is,
film it.
How good is this guy worrying about like what breeding is happening where? When I think, and a lot of people are asking questions, why is his son a redhead? You know what I mean? Like this guy's probably got some complex with that shit. Because now you see how crazy the redhead has gotten. He's got that girl telling him what to do. He's ruined the whole thing. Now this guy's got sausage fingers, worried about some horse farm.
Are you saying that maybe he's a product of like Barbaro? Is that what you're suggesting?
Probably.
Or
man.
Big Red?
Where'd the redhead come from?
Or maybe Secretariat, as every single horse in the Kentucky Derby field this cycle was.
Yeah.
This is
Big
why
Red.
we sailed on the Mayflower. This is why America was created, because these degenerates over there in Britain with their jacking off horses and everything, we had to leave that behind.
And also, is this the first time a government gave a bunch of money to Zelensky and ended up, well, maybe he's just spent it on a luxury stuff and not what we asked him for?
Right. We should jack off a horse. None of you answered the question. If you had a home,
I think you do everything you can to protect your home.
yeah,
I think you do.
you're going to
I
jack
think
off
you
the
do.
horse,
I'm just
aren't
being
you?
honest. If the king comes
Yeah.
to you and says, "Look, these are my terms," you're like, "Sire,
I'm
Well,
going
that's
to
what I
am I
find
gonna
so
do?
I'm
fascinating.
going to produce a commensurate sample.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I find so fascinating about this is they're actually they're like getting to the final stages of actually bulldozing this person's home. And he's like, let me get this straight. This is all over a matter of horse semen? Done. Get the horse. Let's take care of this afternoon.
Yeah.
and then enjoy your breakfast the next morning."
I mean, it's your house.
It is your house. That's
It's your
right.
house.
Well, you'd like to hope it's your house.
What a terrible country.
Built on
Horrible
horse semen.
place.
Awful.
Horrible.
The home that horse semen built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just an ridiculous.
horrible place.
The fucking British pound.
I mean, while you're commenting on the question of the day, you might as well throw in your thoughts on
Yeah.
that because I have a feeling we'll have a diverse set of opinions on the horse semen component to it. I'm sorry that Genevieve Collins has to follow that. And again, you know, this is not once, but now twice this week. We've had to follow somebody, you know, like a segment that's just not worthy of who they are, who's a very sophisticated
I will
political
tell
operative.
you, she can be very proud because Texas is a free state, and their economy is magnitudes bigger than England's.
Nobody would ever have to
Texas is crushing
jerk
it.
off a horse in order to keep their home in Texas. I
Never.
have no question
right.
about that. Genevieve Collins. Well, for those of you who have listened to the Variety Program for a while, you know one of our sort of deepest held convictions is the issue of school choice. And one of our good friends here, AFP, has been extremely helpful all around the country working on all of that. And to talk a little bit about some of the things that have been happening lately, Genevieve Collins, the Texas State Director for AFP. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Happy Wednesday.
Happy. Listen, you've got a lot going on, as it turns out, and I realize that this is sort of an all-encompassing thing, but it feels like you're getting pretty close to getting to where you need to be on a whole range of issues down in the great state of Texas.
That's exactly right. Our session is every 2 years and lasts for 5 months, and we are in the throes of the final countdown, getting ready to, well, we are sprinting to the finish line, but we already have our first massive win under our belt, which was passing the largest school choice program in American history as of May 3rd. So now we're just putting all sorts of cherries on top of our cake.
I mean, it's such a big deal. And for those of you who haven't followed the Texas debate, typically, look, nationally, it's sort of a partisan discussion, and then you've got Republicans largely in favor of school choice and Democrats largely opposed to it because of teachers' unions and all those things. But when you get into red states and you get into rural areas, it doesn't cleanly break down on partisan lines, and it becomes more difficult to get over the finish line. We've seen countless examples that you guys have worked on and ultimately won the argument in states across this country, but probably no bigger state, both physically, maybe population-wise, and in terms of its import than Texas.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the fight, I would say it feels like a 40-year crusade at this point to pass school choice. And I would say the last 2.5 years have really felt like World War I style level of trench fighting, like trench warfare.
Right.
But the reality is in Texas, it's not R versus D, it's urban versus rural.
Yeah.
And what we've seen over the past 2 years is a massive shift in the Overton window of how many rural Republicans are now open and willing to vote for school choice. Just to frame this in perspective, 4 years ago when I started at Americans for Prosperity here in Texas, we had 29 Texas House of Representative members. Out of 150, 29 voted for school choice policy in 2021. Then in 2023, we had 65 Republicans vote for school choice policy. And now, as of this year, we had 86. So this has been not just a policy issue, but also a political issue, which I'm sure we'll unpack, and really moving more of rural Texas into the fold with suburban and urban education outcomes and how we want to see kids be able to thrive.
Yeah, because there's a couple of ways of looking at this. And look, I think COVID did, for the minds of most people around the country, reopen a debate about school choice and what schools were doing as they handled the pandemic and everything else, where families should have a choice one way or another. But on top of that, when you're talking about this rural versus urban divide, a whole piece of economy comes into this. And you're talking about rural areas where schools are big employers, big drivers of community, where you have, something less than a partisan look at this, so much as it is a representation of communities. And so the arguments that you've been making here for the last several years that have now looked like they've really taken hold have given somebody sort of a sense of community on why this is a good thing for the next generation, for younger people, let alone their families, and trying to make sure that our children are educated.
That's exactly right. The fight here was always, well, this will kill Friday night lights. I don't know if anyone knows anything about Texas, but we like football on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now Thursdays apparently and Monday. But anyways, that's a different topic for another day. But it's going to kill our high school football programs. It's going to defund public schools, and nothing. These arguments are such false choices and such poor arguments that we're able to actually talk about when we're focused on the student and doing what's best in the best interest of a child, making sure that your child is prepared for the career or military readiness that needs to happen. We're going to have 10,000 plumbers a shortage of 10,000 plumbers, excuse me, in the next 10 years. We're going to have HVAC and electrician shortages. We have high quality jobs that in rural America or in urban America, people need to fill. And these are really well-paying jobs that we can set these kids up now for a very bright future. But it has to be about the child and not about the four walls with which a child is within.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like there's nothing sadder than children are basically just left out of a growing economy, don't have the skill set, all because they didn't have a choice of where it was that they would go to school. And too many school systems ultimately aren't providing that platform that gives any sort of hope of success. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but if you look at Texas and you look at the arguments that were levied against something like school choice, it sort of skips past that, right? And the left and teachers unions and everything else have done a really good job of trying to cleave off conservative support by basically making arguments about, like you said, Friday Night Lights, right? Well, there's nothing to preclude Friday Night Lights ensuring that children have a choice of the best education they can achieve.
I always made the case. Now, I went to the University of Tennessee, and so it pains me to say this, but I always made the case. If Tim Tebow can have a law as a homeschooler and be a 5-star recruit for the University of Florida and then go win national championships, this argument is so moot that it's not going to kill Friday Night Lights.
Right. He had to play football somewhere, right?
Exactly. I'm like, this is crazy. But what we really ended up doing was not just change the policy argument, but we had to shift the political conversation in order to have a better policy conversation. And I think that that's really where AFP, really the rubber met the road for us, because we were having real conversations with people at their own doorsteps in communities across the state from all demographics, and making sure that they were heard, but also giving these folks a chance to really talk about what they want for their child. Let them dream about the art of the possible. And then, oh, by the way, these new candidates that do support school choice, we're going to help get them elected so that this dream you just conveyed to us is now going to become a reality for your child. And anyone that's going to get in the way, we will help forcibly early retire.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's the secret to what you all do, which is the power of AFP has always been rooted in the communities that you and your people live in around the country. These aren't strangers that are going to talk to a bunch of Texans. These are your friends and neighbors, and harnessing their voices and ensuring that they have the arguments that they all believe in, being able to take that to people, it opens up a conversation, right? It's not like the one that you have every 2 or 4 years where somebody shows up at your doorstep and says, vote for X. It's a rolling conversation that at some point may become political in the context of an election, as you suggested, but really is a conversation about how these policies can improve people's lives.
Absolutely. I think what our teams do incredibly well, both in Texas and around the country, is that we talk to normal people about, and we in normal language. We're not using, highbrow political jargon. We actually just talk to people the way that we would normally talk to our own friends and families. Mm-hmm. And we're really consistent. And I think that that's the other component about AFP, is that it's not just a massive door and phone program. We're in our communities, we're doing events, we're showing up, and we support other groups. We constantly are networking and lifting up the voices of our community. If we fundamentally believe as an organization that it's our job to connect people with policy, then it's so much easier to just open up a conversation and have it be a normal, easy conversation, and let someone steer their own beliefs into what they think is best for the future while we can articulate our own.
That's an excellent point. Give us a little flavor, Genevieve. I know because of that rolling conversation, you're just constantly adding to your community. How many people do you have affiliated with AFP across the state of Texas at this point?
So I have one of the largest offices here in the organization. We have 25 full-time staff, 42 part-time staff. Last year, we had 175,000 unique activists join us.
That's a big number.
Yeah, and we have 14 offices across the state. Now, I manage 2 brands, Americans for Prosperity and the Libre Initiative. And our whole point in Texas, or well, let me rephrase, our whole campaign in Texas is to make freedom bigger in Texas.
Yeah.
We have to have Texas be the shining example. I know there's 49 other states, but as a Texan, we don't really care as much as we should. We like Texas the most.
You've made that abundantly clear.
Yeah, I know. Well, at least we're consistent.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
But we have a huge office, and our job is to make sure we talk to people. Last year, we talked to almost 1 million people, both either at their doors, at events, or on the phone. And we just had conversation. Not everything has to be political, even in a political year. Sometimes people just want a chance to vent or breathe and say what's on their mind. And we're a great facilitator for that, while also empowering people's voices.
Well, it sounds like a recipe for success, and the proof is in the pudding on this big win on the education front for you all. And I know you've got an agenda that continues. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for giving us a little insight into what's happening in Texas, and come back anytime.
Thank you. Great being with you.
She is so smart, and this school choice issue is such an important thing for people, not just in Texas, but across our country.
No question about it. I mean, look, I don't think everybody understands how important the school choice thing is. I mean, we've now gotten a few years removed from COVID, when this anxiety sort of enraptured the center of the electorate, and everybody was like, dude, we need actual school choice. And now you settle back into your lives as it looked before, and people just sort of cast this off. Meanwhile, the teachers unions are spending millions upon millions. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to convince rural conservatives, basically, that this is your way of life, that you'll never have football again. You'll never have Friday Night Lights in Texas if we do school choice. Nonsense. But they were able to battle through that because of the coalitions that AFP builds, and they stay there. It's not, they don't show up every 2 years and hey, give me your battle.
You have to stay vigilant on this stuff. You absolutely do. And how perverse is it that teachers unions try to exploit stuff like that to try to be actually, this is a bad idea.
They give a shit about Friday Night Football.
They don't give a fucking shit about Friday Night Football.
They don't even care about teachers.
Right.
I mean, he's not wrong.
It's fair. It's a fair point. Anyway, Genevieve Collins, thank you for joining us. And listen, Jillian Michaels, thank you for coming in. That was a hell of a fun discussion, wasn't it, fellas?
Outstanding. She was so good.
Just terrific. A banger of an episode. Remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out some merch while you're there. You're going to love it. With that, Smug, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, thank you so much, Genevieve Collins. Thank you so much, Jillian Michaels. And thank you to our listeners. Remember, if you have not yet, go to the YouTube, hit that subscribe. And if you're already here, hit that like button too. So thank you so much, minions. We will see you next week. Until next time, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you next week. Stay ruthless.